Today we will be having our Manager Monday webinar by Tiffany Johnson, and this is on communication for leaders. Without any further ado, I would like to welcome our presenter for today. She is the fabulous Jill of all trades. This is Miss Tiffany Johnson. She's the Director of Adult Education in Victoria College. She's been there since 2013. She's been in the field for more than 20 years, and she is currently the AEL Board Presiding Officer, also works as a board member with the Workforce Solutions of Golden Crescent. She serves as our Daily President, and she received her degree in History and Spanish and a Master of many things, but also of Interdisciplinary Studies. And so I present to you Ms. Tiffany Johnson. Welcome, Tiffany.
Thank you very much, Liz. I am discussing today's communication for leaders, and I'm very excited. I want to thank Train PD for hosting this specific topic. It's been most discussed throughout the world of not just adult education, but also in a lot of meetings I've had with employers and different business people. So I'm going to dive right in because I have lots of information to share today, and we have worked, Liz and I have worked to reduce the actual amount that I had started with. A very, very good topic. So it's an honor to see so many leaders who have attended today. So let's talk a little bit about communication and this general term that so many different areas for today's webinar. We're going to review a lot of different things and kind of skim the surface on some different topics and types, and what I hope to be very good strategies for all of you to implement into your daily leadership style. So I'm going to jump into the objectives for today and talk very briefly about how you as a leader can be your best and effectively communicate. We're going to touch on active listening, the value of focusing on the moment. We'll also review some strategies for different communication styles. And finally, we're going to discuss some ways to praise and motivate your team. It seems to be a lot for just a one-hour webinar, so I will not take much time dwelling on this any longer. I'd like to start off with a short activity. So I need you all to get yourself a piece of paper, pencil, pen, whatever you have, and we're going to have a little activity for you at your desk. And I'm going to describe a picture for you to draw. And I want you to use as much detail as you can. Now, I know many of you are chuckling and saying, she can't see. How's she going to know if I'm doing it? But I think if you take a minute to participate, you'll be able to appreciate the value of where we're going with this. So the scene you're going to draw is from an autumn setting, nice fall. You can see different colors of the leaves, and you can tell that it's a cool day. It's located in a beautiful, lush green scene. There's a waterfall that you see in the distance, and you can almost feel the spray from the water as it empties into a small stream. And I can assure you this is nowhere in Texas right now. Hope everyone's got their pictures. I'm sure you all did an excellent job describing that in detail. And no, this wasn't actually meditation time, but let's check how we did. Do you have similarities? Do you have differences? I know you're probably, unless you are working as an artist in your spare time, being able to actually draw that in such a short amount of time, but not near the details you need. And how much of the information that you may have drawn was too vague based on what I said, or maybe even bias? This may not have even been a cool autumn day. This could be blistering hot for someone who lives in Alaska, let's say, who's used to cooler temperatures. Let's discuss why workplace communication is so very important. 70% of all employees feel that there is poor communication in their jobs. This is a survey taken recently. That's pretty sad. And it's very distressing as a leader who serves a team to be able to have 70%. I hope my personal on my team is reduced, But 70% of all employees, that includes us as leaders who are also employees. That's why this is such a critical topic for us to address today. And as leaders, it is our responsibility to talk about poor communication and identify ways to be able to improve the process within our programs. So let's start by describing the team we lead. Essentially, all teams have three characteristics. They share a goal, they work together, and there should be a benefit for everyone involved. An excellent team also has trust, clear communication, offers support to each other to obtain a common goal, and has respect of each other. Now, we know as leaders it is our job to identify and hire the right team members. But in order to develop each person on our team and assist them in playing a key role on the team, we need to strive for not just a basic team, but an excellent team. And I know you all do, and that's why you're here. So we have to start right away with at the top, so they say. Let's start with leading as an ethical team member. Although these general rules are everyone here follows, but let's just take a minute to remind ourselves of what is valuable as we are all team leaders. Always be honest. Others know on your team, as well as in your departments and in your institutions, people know when you're not. Never give a team member a reason to lose trust in you. Once you've lost that trust, it takes forever to earn that trust back. Integrity is the heart of success. You must have it to truly succeed. And even more importantly, you need to do everything with integrity. Everything. Whether that is in the office, out of the office, or working with your community partners. Do what you say you will when you will say you do it. You have to be dependable for your team members. We understand that fires pop up. It's not always an easy way to be proactive and stay ahead of the game, but you need to explain that to your teammates. You need to explain that, I know I haven't got to it yet, but it is on my list and I will take care of it, and then follow through. And lastly, faith is kind of an unusual trait to have as a team leader, but you never want to knock your coworkers. You don't want your coworkers to lose faith in yourself and your trust. So have faith in your team. You've given them a job to do, you've selected them, and you've shown them the right way to do things. So have a little faith in them. The next part of communicating with excellence is remembering your little work. I can't definitely should be removed completely. Whenever you're talking to your team or your staff or any of your community members, take the word I can't away from your vocabulary. Now, that doesn't mean that you can offer everything in the world, but it's a way of rephrasing what you're trying to say to your team. A lot of times my staff will bring ideas to me, and maybe it's out of compliance. And instead of saying, nope, I can't do that, that puts us out of compliance, nope, we can't have these students in our class, let's figure out a different way just to say that. It's a lot of attitude and a lot of promotion of positivity when you change your phrases to be I can. I can take care of this in a different way. Offer what you can do to be able to help your team and also your customers that come to you. Try avoid saying no. Again, depends on the situation, but it is okay to be able to rephrase things and just eliminate that little word from your vocabulary. Maybe not right now. Maybe I can do this. Instead of just flat out telling people, no, we can't do that, no, this is against the policy, no, it takes us out of compliance. Let's just take a step back and try to reword and reframe ourselves. It is okay also to admit that you do not know something, but you'll be glad to find out. This comes up a lot, especially in our line of work. I'm not quite sure how this is going to work, but I will be able to figure it out. give me a minute to write for guidance from someone else maybe. Let me figure this out a different way. And make sure you bring that information back to your team. And lastly, be conversational. Learn what's going on with your team, but definitely respect your coworkers' time. You don't want to take them away from your time by being part of their lives, but you do want to make sure you show you care when you're communicating with them. Let's not forget what we know about the basics on communication and how easily you can be misunderstood because of how we are saying things instead of what we are trying to say. We remember that 90% comes from the body language and the tone, which is why it is very, very important for you to be careful with emails, instant messages, and texts whenever you're communicating with anyone on your team. I have a habit when I instant message someone on my team, I usually start off with, hey, because to me, it means, hey, what you doing? It's a very casual term. And one of our new employees came to me and said, you know, I feel like you're yelling at me every time you yell, hey. So it was just a little difference because of our communication styles, which we're going to get into later a little bit more. To me, I thought it was casual, and she was reading it as very directive. So be careful and make sure your staff and your team understand and know what you're trying to say. And remember, it isn't your employees that have the attitude. It is you as their leader who set that attitude. So treat your team members like you are thankful that they're there. Your attitude is everything. Whether it's good or bad, it is definitely contagious. You come in having a rough day, you're the one that sets the tone for your team. You are happy and excited, that's the attitude that will spread throughout. And it shows in all you do, from both the tone of your voice to the behavior and actions that you go through. You may not get a second chance to set that attitude. You may have one chance when you first walk in the door, when you're leading a staff meeting, when you're working on a project, when you're partnering with someone else. You've got to set the tone and set the attitude for your staff to be able to know exactly how this is going to play out. And believe you can make a difference. Every one of us in adult education should wake up with the positivity that we're making a difference. We're making changes. We're changing lives. And if you believe that you can make the difference, your team will as well. Appreciate every single day that you're allowed to work. Be thankful that you can work and you actually have a job. You know, last year, we have a break room where we have our weekly staff meetings. It's also our kind of lunchroom. And we had one wall that was completely bare. And it's really bothered me for years. Every week during our staff meeting, I would identify different quotes, different sayings, sometimes just a funny meme. And I would print that out and go in to our staff meeting. That's how we would open the staff meeting. And then when we were finished, I would post it on the wall. So at the end of the year, we had a whole wall of inspirational quotes and memes and funnies and just something to describe kind of how everyone's feeling. It's great to acknowledge that your team has feelings, and we're not all just about the work ethic and the work day. We can actually support and lift each other up with those positive feelings with the contagious attitude.
That is so exciting. That's a really neat thing that you could do, and it's low cost, right? Mm-hmm. Low energy. We also have a comment from Krista. Krista Trevino, she says, maintain a mindset that we are people working with people. Humanize and empathize.
Oh, great.
Brenda added, find the positive around you and praise it, by Alex Haley. And Mauro says that I agree with what is being said, and always remember that as a team member, everyone contributes. Mm-hmm. Never make yourself as team leader the one with all the answers, or you will be the one making all the decisions. Oh, isn't that so true?
Very true.
And then the last one we have is from Maria Gonzalez. Always look for ways to pull greatness from everyone. So there you go.
Good. Awesome. You guys are great. I knew something got you out of bed in the morning. So moving forward, we're going to go on with effective communication because we need to ensure that we're doing everything that we can do to help our employees understand what we're trying to communicate as leaders. Many times you guys have a team made up of different personalities, different communication styles, different generations, and we really need to verify that we not only lead with good communication habits, but we're also making an effort to adjust our communication styles to accommodate our excellent team members that we have. So the definition of communication is basically the ability to express your thoughts and feelings clearly and accurately to another and then receive those. But effective communication is when the sender and receiver both reach a conclusion satisfactory to both of them. And communication is never one way. When somebody is thinking about their own ideas, they're not necessarily getting them out and communicating. There has to be two ways, and we've all heard the phrase before. Ironically, I do usually say, I have it in my head, I just have a hard time of getting it out. I am a very visual person. I have 3 of my 4 walls in my office covered with dry erase boards. But one of the major factors in effective communication is actually listening. Listening and being an active listener is a key role in every conversation that you have. Just asking someone if they understand and offering them 3 seconds to say, yes, of course I do, isn't effective for anyone. How often do you want to admit that you didn't hear or don't understand what your supervisor is asking you to do? So when you're working with your staff and your team members, active listening requires you to be fully present in the moment, not distracted, and focused on the task at hand. Often they say that we're not truly listening because we're planning the next thing we're going to say. And a lot of times, just like life in general, you see that it's very difficult to focus on what someone else is trying to communicate. Take notes. Draw pictures. Know your own personal learning style and use it. Because how often we find different distractions either in our minds or with technology that's going to drag us away and make a conversation with a team member completely ineffective. So I'd like to move on and talk about a simple behavior style assessment that can be used to help you generally identify different types of behaviors that you may find on your team and look at strategies to find the best way to communicate with them. Remember, this is just a quick overview of assessing and adapting to be more accommodating for your team members. And we're going to go through these fairly slowly, but I do know there are a lot of words on the pages and on the slides. So we're going to talk today about a simple tool that you can use, generally speaking, to help guide you to determining the most prominent behavior of some of your team members. So it's called the DISC assessment and the determining a person's DISC style. So DISC can stand for either, the D in DISC can stand for either dominant or driving. The I is influencing or inspiring. The S, steady or supportive, and the C is conscientious or cautious, depending on what you actually can bring together and which person's model that you look at. So you can't absolutely determine without a question what another person's personality style is, but you can make an educated guess about their primary style, or at least how they would respond in a current situation. And you can usually do this by asking yourself a couple of key questions as well as observing different behavior styles. So there's no good or bad styles. We only want you to know that each have their own strengths and each have their own limitations. And you'll see as we're going through these very clearly what your communication style will be, because you will start identifying with some of the different personality traits. So determining someone's DISC personality, you want to observe their body language, their tone that they use, the words they use, and also their work habits. This tool is going to offer not necessarily a positive result, but it can help you figure out a way to share information with your team. The first question you want to ask is, are they outspoken? Oops, sorry. I knew that. Are they more outgoing or more reserved? And are they more task-oriented or more people-oriented? These are the two questions that will give you kind of a good ballpark of what we're looking for. Because if a person is more outgoing, they're going to be seen as either a D or an I. If they're more reserved, they're going to be seen as either a C or an S. On our chart, you've got your D up in the top right-hand corner. You've got your I on the bottom right-hand corner. So if your person is going to be a little more outgoing, that's going to be a little more in that area. And then you're usually going to tend to be a C or an S if they're a little more reserved. The next question you ask yourself, are they a little more task-oriented or a little more people-oriented? So if they're a little more task-oriented, like to get things done one step at a time, then they're going to tend to be on the D and the C side, versus a little more people-oriented, like to talk to people, like to be social, they're going to be a little more on the I and the S side. So you can use these questions to be able to get a general overview of what someone's personality style would be. And then we'll look at some different strategies to be able to communicate better with them. When you're observing a D, you're looking at someone who is outgoing, outspoken. They're very quick to respond. They make decisions quickly, very fast-paced in getting their projects completed. They're project and task-oriented. They're going to ask you questions, and they're going to be a little skeptical, and they're going to want control and challenges. If you have someone on your team who is completely a D and has those dominant traits, then you're going to find that they're outgoing, they're very task-oriented, and you want to use more dominant language. And we're going to see the communication styles. Get to the point quickly. They do not want you to waste their time. They are ready to go. They pretty much generally have a good idea of what project you've already assigned them. You can offer them the conclusions first. Say, this is what I want at the end of this project. This is how I want this class to look. This is what I want our SOP to look like. These are the different things that I need out of here. And then follow up later with facts if that's going to be needed. You want to focus on the results and the outcomes and how you got them or how you feel about them. They do not need to know that. Any additional information that you're going to be communicating with the D personality is going to feel like a waste of time to them. You want to give them options, and they want the control to choose their options. You want to offer them the project, outline it, make sure you're on the same page, and turn over control to them. And most definitely, the way to communicate a D the most is going to be respect them for their work. You cannot micromanage a D personality. And if you have someone on your team, or if you are one of the D personality types, you definitely know that you do not need an overbearing person that's going to undermine what you're doing. If they have questions or they need clarification, you'll usually get a direct email or a direct question. You answer it, and then they will move on. If you're looking for an I style, an I personality, outgoing and people-oriented, You want to use the inspiring language. An I person is very quick to respond and make decisions, just like our D. They're outspoken, outgoing, just like our Ds. They're also very fast-paced, but they're more people-oriented than a D personality. They're going to be able to visit with others and be a little more social. They're going to ask personal information. Hey, how was your weekend? Hey, I'd like to get together. Let's go to lunch. They're going to be a little more accepting and warm, and they're going to be very well received by others. These are your, hey, everything's going to be great people. Everybody likes to be around them. They really want approval, and they want admiration. When you communicate with an I personality, you want to smile. You want to visit with them in person. They really like to interact and be able to share information with you. They like to be able to show enthusiasm, and they're going to be excited about things. They want to hear your stories. They want to hear how you envision this. They want you to describe that photo of the river instead of just handing them a sheet of paper and saying, these are the facts. This is what I need. I want this budget information taken care of. When interacting with an I, you want to be friendly and professional, just not overly businesslike, like you were with the D personality. When you've got a D personality on your staff, you definitely want to be very clear-cut, straight to the facts, and keep it business. With an I, similar, but not necessarily the same. So you can be a little lighter and a little more friendly. Most leaders, and I've known a few adult ed leaders in my years, are Ds, or maybe on the verge of being I's. Let's move on to S. S is your supportive language, reserved and people-oriented. These are your reflective, a little more cautious. They like to think things through. They seem a little slower when it comes to decision-making, but you know you can depend on them. They're very warm. They're very likable. They want appreciation. They want to be recognized. I love having S-type personalities as my data entry clerks. They like to get the tasks done, but they're also very good with my staff and being able to relate with the teachers. I can use my S personalities as frontline staff as well. With an S-type personality, you need to slow down. You can't just draw the picture at the end and expect them to get there. You have to slow down and step them through exactly what you want to communicate to them. You want to ask how they're doing. Show that you care. Don't be very abrupt. Don't be all caps. Don't be very in their face. An S-type personality is a reserved personality. So the more abrasive and the more overwrought you are, the more frustrated and the easier they are to shut down. Now, I can tell you as a team leader, when you do have an S personality on your staff, which I do have several on mine, I am a very strong D personality who is outgoing, and those of you who know me know that the more passionate I get, the louder I get. So I have to tone it down and remember when I have S personalities and my C personalities that I need to slow down and take it down a notch. I need to explain clearly where I'm going, and I need to use different relevant stories, maybe something from the past. Remember that project we did in this EL Civics class? I really want to bring that up again. Let's talk about that. I have to go back to different things that maybe we've experienced in our community, bring those in, and not necessarily go in with guns a-blazing and saying, hey, I need this done right now, hurry up. That's not going to get the reaction nor the results that I want when I'm communicating with an S. And finally, our Cs. Our Cs are usually very reserved. They are questioning, they want facts, they're very task-oriented. This is also a very reserved personality, very slow to respond. They pay complete attention to detail. This is what I want in my fiscal, my business office people. I want them to stop and not make those fast-paced decisions. I want them to know every month that everything they're doing is perfectly correct. And I want to make sure that they are asking for extra information every time they need it. Before they respond to me, they've made their decisions, and we can get on the same page together. Now again, when I'm communicating with the C, I need to slow down. I need to let them process. I need to use facts and data, and I need to show them that this is exactly where I need to be. These are exactly the numbers I need in this place, and not waste any time talking about feelings, or let me give you this story about how one time I bought these items and this is what happened. They don't want to hear it. They want to use the facts. They want to know where you're coming from, and they want to make sure that you hear their concerns and their objections as well. And this is a big thing if you are a very fast-paced leader, and that's your communication style. We need to remember that when we're talking to a C personality or an S personality, we have to slow it down and make sure that we give ample time for processing. Now, I know I went through all of those very quickly, but I also want to say that there's a true assessment that you can take and be able to go through on your own, and that is going to give your staff or yourself a better guide of exactly what type of personality you are. And there's tons of assistance out there for you, so that you can spend a little bit more time developing the DISC personality style. I can share a very simplified version of that with you guys, and we can maybe post something. I do have a very simplified version of that. I'm not sure how to get it out, though.
Okay, well, if you have, is it a link?
No, actually, we have a paper version.
Okay, so possibly maybe we could put it on the community of practice.
Ah, perfect, yes. It's very simple. I've worked with my HR director to kind of compose something that's a little simpler and quicker. The other factor, or the other type of tool or assessment that I think I should bring up to make sure is the Gallup's 50 traits on the strengths-based leadership route. And I know many of you received the book through one of our leadership, our change management, I think. We did a project with the state, I think, a couple of years back, if y'all remember that. If not, I know that there are some trainers across the state here that can do something locally. It is based on the Gallup's strengths-based leadership training, and it helps you identify your strongest strengths. I guess that's the way to say that. It's a great way to look at different personalities and be able to quickly figure out what personality style you may have on your team, and also identify which personality style you may not, because it's just as detrimental to a team that has too many of one and not enough of another type of personality. You have to find that right blend.
And, you know, Tiffany, just to share with everyone else, Train PD does offer face-to-face sessions on that. It's part of the Leadership Institute. where they do discuss personalities and how you could first identify your own before you can learn ways to interact with others or be more effective communicator. And so I've sat in on a couple of those, and they're just fantastic. And so if there's anyone that would want more information, we can certainly help at Train PD.
Perfect. I knew there were resources here in Texas. It is also an easy, short, quick 15-minute before a staff meeting. Let's take a minute and just kind of bring it up. Sometimes when it comes to different things with the personalities is that people really do not understand. I conducted actually a training on multi-generational workforce with one of our employers, and it was amazing some of the different age groups and how just bringing it out and just having a discussion about, remember, you're from this generation and this is kind of a characteristic, and kind of pointing it out. The team was able to kind of come up with their own strategies to be able to work better together. I know I've definitely explained to my staff, I have to see it. You have to draw a picture for me, literally, sometimes. Now, one thing I do want to cover before we start wrapping up, a lot of times the best way to communicate is being adaptive and being flexible and being in the moment with your team. But one thing I think that is so most often overlooked is a way to praise and motivate your coworkers. Everyone likes to be recognized, not always in the same way, but they definitely want to be acknowledged in some way for their hard work and their efforts. And I often tell my team that it's very important that I show them how grateful I am, because I'm not going to be able to lead if I have no team. So we want to go ahead and address, and I just want to take a few moments to talk about showing your praise to your team. There's a lot of easy ways, especially cost-effective ways. The first thing to say is thank you, and I appreciate you, and you're doing great. It is definitely different the way you say it, so be careful, back to the slide about the tone, and don't oversay it. I always have to laugh at the leaders that say it too much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and it kind of loses its meaning. So switch it up a little bit. Take time to go and visit some of your team members and say, you know, I really appreciate you. In the month of July, I think I spent the whole month saying thank you so much to my data entry team for everything they've done. In the month of August, I'm working with the career navigators, thanking them so much for helping with all the outreach and all the enrollment. So focusing even personally on each and every one of your team members. Next is noticing. Noticing whenever something's done well. Now, again, it's common knowledge, but taking time to stop and say, hey, I saw the way you worked with that student. I was walking by, I heard this. I saw that you handled this. I keep a stack of note cards in my desk, and I still believe in the good old handwritten note card versus an email or versus anything digital. And so when I notice something really is done well, I'll jot down a little note. It may not mean much, but I want to show them that I am thinking about them, but I'm also recognizing them. Feedback, even when things are busy. It's definitely a good way to say, you know what, I know you came up with this idea. Let's go ahead and try it. I think if we tweaked it like this, it's going to work great. And it is very difficult to find time when things are busy and chaotic. Schedule it if you have to. All of us have our calendars. I hate to say it, but there are some times when I have to put it on the calendar to go talk to some teachers, go check on these classes, go get some feedback from students, and kind of put it as a reminder for myself. Encouragement. There is always up. No matter how tippy-top you are, no matter how amazing your team is and your staff is, there's always a way to improve. There's always a way to come up and say, you are doing fantastic, but I think you can do better. And I have several team members that I have brought up before that I truly see potential in them to aspire to either leadership, prominent positions elsewhere on campus, even outside of my department and outside of my program. There's always a way to support your team members, and sometimes that might even mean not within your own team. Purpose, making sure everyone knows why they're there. Don't forget, just because it's not graduation week, why we're there. It's easy to be inspired when you go through all the graduations and everybody's doing great, but make sure you convey that message. Share some stories. Bring student stories to your staff meetings if you are having your team go through some rough times. Just have it hanging on the wall. You don't even have to devote any time to it. Put a picture up. Remember this student whenever they were here. Kind of go from there. And health and wellness, showing that you're concerned. I've often told my team, you want to go for a walk in the middle of the afternoon? That is fine with me, as long as you come back. I want my staff and my team to know that I care about their health. I care about their families, and I care that this is a family as well. And I'm going to care just as much about you. If you don't show up for work, I'm calling. Are you okay? Where are you? What's going on? And I want them to know that. That's a very high priority for me. And it should be for all of us as leaders. And finally, I want to say thank you to all of you leaders, because I know how tremendously busy you are and how precious your time is. But you're taking a step to better yourself and improve your communication style to serve as a better leader for your team. So I do want to say thank you so much to all of you. And with that, I have the perfect story. And it has to do with hiring someone who is from the Midwest and just moved down to Texas. And it's funny because I had, at the time we were super busy, and I had 2 career navigators. One of them was the new hire. And everyone else has lived around our area for, ever, so has their parents. And so I called them both in and I said, this is what I want. I want to do some summer activities, and I want the students to come in, and I want to offer this, and I want to offer this, and I drew it all out on my board. And then I had told them that I had recently been at a student conference, one that they held for adult ed students. And so I brought back this agenda that had all these different breakout sessions. I said, look, this was cool, this was awesome. And I threw them out and went about my day. Well, about 2 weeks later, I said, okay, I'm ready to follow up with this project I gave you. And they both came in and they went through and they said, well, we're going to have 15 breakout sessions and it's going to be all day this day. And I said, well, wait a minute, I thought we were doing multiple days, one session each time. And they were like, no, you showed us this. And so it was kind of funny. At the moment it was not, because they had put a lot of hard work into a project. But later looking back, I realized, wow, that was the perfect difference of communication. I wasn't as focused as I should have been in the initial meeting. And so when I jumped from multiple dates with multiple activities into one big conference, I totally did not even explain myself. And it was just a moment of clarity for me to say, wait a minute, when I'm here in this meeting, I need to be 100%. And I need to be clear, and I need to make sure that I'm being clear. And one of our girls who had just moved in and brand new to our team, she was trying so hard to do her first project. She was excited, and she said she didn't feel like she could come in and ask. She didn't want to ask for clarification. She kind of thought maybe I misunderstood, but she wasn't comfortable enough to kind of take that step. So it was a great moment for once we all got on the same page. But initially, it was a lot of hard feelings and frustration on both ends.
Well, I think, we can all learn from that experience that you're sharing, and we can probably all think back to yesterday or last year or a time in our past where we've experienced something similar. Denise was saying, oh no, please share one strategy of how to engage a difficult person. But I think what we could do is possibly schedule Tiffany to join us once again and maybe do a part 2 on communication with leaders and focusing on those difficult personalities. What do you think, Tiffany?
That sounds great, but I did. Number 1 strategy is to keep cool. That is the first thing. Keep cool. Take a deep breath.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Tiffany, for sharing this great resource and the information that you gave us today. Thank you so much to everyone for participating in our Manager Monday session for today.